Good evening, and welcome to the Miracle of Prosperity. I'm Reverend Jim Webb, Senior Minister of the Tacoma Metaphysical Chapel in Silver Spring, Maryland, and the author of the book, The Soul of Prosperity. And we all know that prosperity has many dimensions. There is spiritual prosperity, where we have the peace that passes all understanding. There's logistical prosperity, where our lives just work, and the synchronicity that at first amazes us becomes commonplace. There's professional prosperity, where, in the words of Florence Scovel Shen, we have a wonderful job, wonderful pay, and we offer a wonderful service in a wonderful way. There's relationship prosperity, where all of our relationships are harmonious and supportive and a source of joy and upliftment. And there's, of course, financial prosperity, where our finances are no longer a source of worry, but are a conduit for joy and fulfillment. And tonight we're going to work with a specific dimension of prosperity, personal prosperity. And the reason that we are going to work with that tonight is because we are approaching the holiday period. And as you know, the holiday period has some very unique stressors. It has financial pressures. For some, December is a long month with a lot more month than money. And when you feel pressured to partake in consumerism during the holidays, it can be a point of pressure for some. For some, family relationships that have lain dormant for 11 and a half months come back to life because you see family members that you may not regularly spend time with. For some, the holidays may be fraught with all kinds of activities that may actually wring the joy out of what the holiday period is all about. For others, holiday periods may be times when they reflect on the loved ones who may not be there anymore. And for those reasons, it is very important for us to focus on personal prosperity during the holidays. Now, one of the ways that we can continually maintain a level of our own personal prosperity, our own well-being, no matter what is going on in our lives, is to work with self-care and to develop a self-care program so that we can plan to care for ourselves during the holiday period. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about holiday self-care. And when I say we, it's not just me. I've invited a dear friend, a colleague, and a beloved on to talk about this with me. I've invited Coach Wilma Lee, Reverend Coach Wilma Lee. I've had the honor and pleasure of knowing Coach Wilma Lee since she was a student at Intervisions, and now she has been part of the faculty at Intervisions, and she is a coach, and we go way back, and it's such an honor and such a pleasure to have her on the show. Coach Wilma Lee, welcome to you.
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you.
We are so glad to have you. And I want to tell everybody that one of the reasons I wanted to have Coach Wilma Lee on is that she is the newly minted author of a new workbook. Is it the Radical Self-Care Workbook?
Not quite. It's supercharge your self-care.
So tell me, how do you supercharge your self-care?
Well, I like supercharge because I know a lot of people are using radical, and for some people that's a little scary. So supercharge, it's like, come on, let's, as Arthur Ashe said, let's start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. Let's really amp this and charge this thing up here. So let's get moving. So supercharging it is like, let's start now and let's be excited
Mm.
about it. Start where you are. It's not something that you can start tomorrow. There are little things that you can start today now.
Okay. So no matter where you are, there is something more that you can do to advance your self care. So even an incremental thing that you do can
Hmm.
really help your self care. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. So give
Absolutely.
me an example of a little thing that I can do. And I'll give you an example that I absolutely loved. I think you saw this show. This was the show where we had uh, uh, Amani on, and she's the sexologist. And she talked about
Hmm.
enhancing your personal bliss. And she said, well,
Hmm.
talk to you, Reverend Jim. My butt is a little tired. And I'm like, I make your butt tired? And she said, yeah. So I know I can reach over here and get this pillow and put it under me and I can feel better. And that was just an incremental thing
Hmm.
that she did.
Hmm.
So give me an example of an incremental thing we can do to enhance our self care.
Definitely. The biggest one of the largest ones I promote is give yourself permission to say no. Say no.
Hey,
No.
yes,
No.
I love that.
No. No. Oh no. 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 Heck no. Hell no. Just giving. I tell people, give yourself permission to say no, and it's a small thing, but it's so
Yes.
huge.
Let's work with that for a minute. Let's
Okay.
unpack that for a minute. And
Absolutely.
let's put it in a bite-sized chunk that we can all remember. No is love. No equals love. No
Yes.
is love. No equals love. Just like that idea, good fences make good neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Good boundaries make for peace and joy and
Absolutely.
satisfaction and balance. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And let's do a personal application of that in real life. And I'll give you an example of how I learned to do this. I one time it was like the second Sunday in December when your Christmas cards are quote supposed to go out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're supposed to go out on the second weekend so they can get there about a week before Christmas. And so
Right.
I was feeling besieged and uh, and for time, and I just said no. I'm not going to send Christmas cards. You know what I did? I
Mm-hmm.
sent New Year cards instead,
See.
and
Absolutely.
that was an incremental no, an incremental decision to take care of myself, so that the things that I quote should do didn't wring all the joy out of the holiday period.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know what else I'd like to unpack with you, my love?
What?
I'd like to unpack, why do we sometimes find it so challenging to care for ourselves and to build those boundaries of balance that bring more love? And let's coin that. Let's copyright that idea. The boundaries of balance that bring more love. The boundaries of balance that bring more love. The boundaries of balance that bring more love.
Absolutely. I love that. And you know why? One of the reasons it's really hard is because people are so they want to help, and then but they put, especially a lot of times women have a tendency to do this,
Mhm,
parents, so you
mhm.
put everyone's needs before your own, and
Yeah.
you work, and sometimes there's so much to do, there's so many projects, and then
Mm,
so by the end of the day, the end of the list is you, but there's no more left to give, and so you just keep moving and giving, and so I tell people it's like you give and your vessel becomes empty because you
mhm.
can't give. When I was studying to be a coach, I think it was
Yes,
we were taught total life coaching, total coaching,
yes.
and he teaches you to put yourself first. And though it seems selfish, but if
Mhm,
you're the person that everyone comes to, and so now you feel like sometimes people feel as if they're letting you down by saying no or I can't.
mhm,
So they want to say, "Dang, no, I don't want to do that. Okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll
mhm.
do it.
Yes.
Okay,
I'll do it with a smile on the face
right."
and
And
resentment inside.
Right. And then you take it out on everybody else. You go home, you're mad at the dog, you're mad at your spouse, you're mad at everybody.
Hmm.
And it's like, just it's okay to say no. Or to say, I'm not able to do that right now. So
Yes.
mhm,
I had a beautiful no from someone recently. It was someone I was wanting to get on the show. And she said, "Oh, Reverend Webb, I love you so. You were my favorite at Intervisions. Nah, 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 nah. And right now I'm just so busy. I'll get back to you." And I said, "I love you too. Thank you for saying no because that shows me that you learned something."
yes.
And it was just beautiful.
Oh,
Now,
absolutely.
now
Absolutely.
let's unpack that a little more because I want to get to some of the core inner saboteurs that block our prosperity. And
Hmm.
one of them is that, what you said is synonymous to giving from a full cup
Hmm.
versus giving from an empty cup
Hmm.
and creating more resentment and more imbalance as a result.
Right.
But I want to unpack that just a little bit more because this is also one of the core saboteurs
Hmm.
to our prosperity,
It is.
which is we believe that we have a debt to everybody else, that
Hmm.
we owe everybody else to be this image of what we believe ourselves to be the
Hmm.
perfect parent, the perfect provider, the
Absolutely.
perfect friend, the perfect sister, the perfect sibling and to pour ourselves out in order to meet that mythical standard.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
that mythical standard of perfection is just a myth.
Yes, it is.
And and so one of the antidotes to that I found is the aggressive self-acceptance of
Hmm.
accepting ourselves just as we are, where we are, and loving ourselves just as we are, where we are. So we no longer have to meet this mythical standard of perfection in
Hmm.
order to feel okay. So we heal that guilt of the guilt that creates the gap between where
Absolutely.
we believe we are supposed to be and where we are right now. And we give
Absolutely.
ourselves permission to be in the
Ab-
right now.
Absolutely.
What do you think?
Oh no, I totally agree with that. So a lot of times, some of the things people are thinking, one thing is, what are you telling yourself about yourself? Like as
Mm,
soon as that's happening, or what? Because sometimes I ask people, what do when that's going on? What are you telling yourself about yourself?
mm.
Thinking because that's the tape is playing. The
Yes.
tape is already playing. And
Mm,
sometimes you're thinking, well, I'm not good enough, or this person, they holding me emotionally hostage, but perhaps you don't know. So it's like,
mhm,
I feel bad if I say no because they asked me to do this and they did that for me. So what it is what you're saying to yourself. Now that's self-talk. There's a saying, talk to yourself as if you love yourself. And
yeah.
that's the biggest piece right there. What are you thinking? What
Mm,
are you telling yourself about yourself? What are you
mm,
thinking of yourself? Like, I have to do it. So that's the big myth buster right there. We can just get this thing between
mm.
in the ears. Hmm.
Yes. Oh, beautiful. Talk to yourself and let me put it in terms of A Course in Miracles. Since this is the miracle of prosperity, and our task is to incorporate the teachings of the Course so that they can help us to develop more of a prosperity. Talk to yourself as if you are the beloved. Would the beloved of God say that to themselves? Would the beloved of God think that of themselves?
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much for that. And tell me a little bit more about what caused you to write I'm going to always mischaracterize it. So
That's
I'll ask you your
okay.
forgiveness in advance. The Radical Self Care Workbook, the Supercharged Self Care Workbook,
It's
the
okay.
Modified Self Care Workbook.
It's okay. Um, what got me started was just thinking, I have a free 5-day self-care challenge and I do some free things. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this a step further because some of my clients, we're having trouble. And then people, I noticed everywhere I went, people wanted to talk about, I'm really run down, I'm not taking care of myself. And they start talking about how they're eating, what they're doing. And I start saying, you could start today. What is it that you want for yourself?
Mm,
To yourself. And people just go day to day like existing. And I'm like, well,
mm,
no, come on, man. You want to thrive. So that's what really prompted me to write the workbook, to give them a sort of a blueprint so
mhm.
that it can help them. And then if they wanted to take it deeper, coaching, because I do radical self-care coaching and yes, coaching. So, and self-care is like a big thing for me. It's personal. It is personal.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you do is people are just surviving day to day, moment to moment because they are in survival mode, and you offer them a vision of thriving instead, and then you offer them steps to get to that vision of thriving. Is that accurate? Did I hear that right?
You did. You did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I often tell people, like my clients, when we're done, I create what's called a compass. But this is a map because sometimes we could use a little boost and we know where we want to go. And it's, like back in the day before we had what is that, the GPS, we use
Yeah.
maps. We
Yes.
use maps.
Hmm.
So the map, it's like a map to help you get to your destination. Because ultimately self-care, how could we be better? How could I do better? How could I? And so we map that out together. There's some things in the book that help, and there's some
Hmm.
tools to support you, and then you map it out and you get there. And then to take it further, if you like are in need of accountability, then that I come in that then too, because sometimes you need a little accountability.
Yes, I think so too.
Mhm.
Yes. So I want to hear about some of your key self-care tips for the holidays. And I want to hear about them. And I also want to entertain some questions. One of the people that I talked up, because we talked about her in the pregame show, was your doula for grief. She's on here now as well. And I want to talk about specifically self-care for those who are moving into a holiday period. I also want to look at your keys, some key things that any and everyone can do for
Mhm.
holiday self care. And I
Mhm.
want to cover some of the other questions that our guests have asked. And I
Absolutely.
want to do that after we sell some soap. So, right now, we're going to go to a break.
Okay.
I'm going to put on my glasses, read all these questions because we got a lot of them,
Put my
and
glasses
then
on too.
we're going to answer them during the break. So stay with us here on the New Thought Media Network.
Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, for your continued support. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown Atlanta, for your monthly contribution. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, for your monthly contribution. And please help us welcome Om Center for Spiritual Living in La Mesa, California. Thank you for your monthly donation. Thank you, Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, for your most generous donation. And a special thanks to Hefferlin Foundation for your generous technology grant. And Suze Ajit, thank you for your very generous donation. And a super special thank you to Dr. Tracy Brown, RSCP. Thanks for being a super donor. And a big shout out to all our committed donors.
Watch me change when you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you look at change. When you change the way you look at things. The things you
And we're back here on the New Thought Media Network with the Miracle of Prosperity and my special guest tonight, Reverend Coach Wilma Lee, author of The Turbocharged, Supercharged Self-Care. And we're talking tonight about the importance of self-care, especially during the holidays. And Coach Wilma Lee, what are some key things that everyone can do to supercharge their self-care?
Okay. Well, number one, breathe. Take a breath. It's just like, wow, come on, let's take a breath. I'd say everyone, just take a breath. Sometimes before you answer, because the holidays can be especially stressful. When they say it's the most wonderful time of the year, and I'm always looking out. People are in a hurry. People are angry. They have to shop. People are mad because they haven't already shopped. So I'm like, okay, everybody, let's just everybody take a breath. Okay, first we want to take a breath. Want to say no. Also, have a budget in mind. Say no. And also, what I've read something the other day, a big thing that people are posting now on social media is just say no and stop spending. If you don't want to spend, like, if you don't want to spend a lot of money, or if you're just not, you can say no and it's okay. So I tell people, think about what you want to spend beforehand. Have a plan.
You know what I do?
Hmm.
I visualize my January and February American Express bill. And I say, this is how much I want it to be so I don't blank a brick in January and February. And when I say, this is how much I want it to be so I don't blank a brick, then that kind of moves down into my mind and it then guides my purchase decisions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I tell them too to take breaks. Take breaks.
What's that mean? Tell me more about that.
Take a break from whatever you're doing. Sometimes we just need a break. Step away from it. I also tell them, please don't overindulge. Just if you feel like, oh man, this isn't enough, just pause, stop, take a break. Take a break from what you're doing, because the holidays bring stress. And sometimes when we're stressed, we overeat, we overdrink, we just drink too much, we're eating too much. And I'm like, hold on, just take a break. Take a break.
That makes a lot of sense because we have a lot of parties. And what that seems to do is it just amplifies any imbalance and becomes a spiral. So that interruption, anytime you want to change an energy pattern, one of the most effective ways to change an energy pattern that you are not enjoying is to do an interruption.
Yep.
It's like unplugging a computer or unplugging your Verizon Fios so that it can do a reset.
Yep.
So that break sounds like it's an energetic interruption to get you back to energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just take a break. Take a break. And I tell people, slow down. Slow down. Everybody, let's just slow down. Sometimes in the room, I'll just say to them, okay, everybody, let's just breathe. And I slow down. Or I'll ask people, please slow down.
Well, that has already had a calming effect because, sometimes I'm a little bit like Speedy Gonzalez when I get on the show. And your gentle, loving tone has already calmed me down. So thank you.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm like, slow it down.
Thank you. So I can see you're very effective in what you're doing. Now, let's talk about a specific aspect of the holidays that sometimes goes somewhat unaddressed. We were talking about it earlier in the pregame show with your doula for grief, and we were talking about your doula for grief. And we just talked her up because she's one of the viewers tonight. And so let's look at some ways that we can care for ourselves if we are experiencing grief.
Absolutely.
So that's very important. One of my families, the Pileski family, one of our patriarchs passed first. So this will be the first holiday without him.
Mhm.
Yet he will be front and center because we're still carrying on with all of the holiday plans that me and the Paleskis always have. So, for example, a family like the Paleskis, what guidance would you have to care for themselves during
Wow, that for me is personal because when my mom passed,
that?
she left or she transitioned. Well, I tell people she changed addresses in November,
Mm,
not recently, years ago. So one thing for caring for yourself, it was like imperative for me to celebrate her.
mm,
So we did that. So I would offer celebrate your loved one, but also allow your grief to. This is my saying. I always say allow your grief to visit, but do not allow it to stay. So
mm.
celebrate your loved one, like their favorite food, their favorite song, music, and if you're with other family members, share some funny things about them. Because when people talk to me or come to me with grief, especially about a loved one, I will ask them about something funny, that a fun experience or a fun time they had with them. So, focus on the good, but celebrate them and talk about them.
Yes,
Mm,
that's absolutely wonderful. That's absolutely thank you so much.
absolutely.
And it's in as I was thinking about it, I was thinking about my brother-in-law, and and as you said that, I thought of the way he moved when we would unwrap Christmas presents. The
Hmm.
way he moved, he was always the one who held the bag. So when you unwrapped your Christmas present, you'd like try to do a three-pointer into the trash bag with all the paper.
Hmm.
And the way he moved and the way he did that, and I just thought about it. And all
Hmm.
of a sudden, it brought a smile on my face. So,
Absolutely.
so it
Mhm.
sounds to me like remembering those little things
Yep.
that bring a smile to your face that everybody and care for ourselves.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Now, one of the other things that people generally experience is going back to families where they may have unfinished spiritual business.
Hmm.
Examples of unfinished spiritual business, they may hold old resentments, or there may be enmeshed family patterns that are not terribly healthy, but they are
Hmm.
comfortable for the family, and the person going back to that family may no longer be comfortable in those patterns.
Hmm.
And someone involved in unfinished family business
Absolutely.
care for themselves during that.
Absolutely. Set boundaries. Set boundaries. As they would
Mm,
say, draw your line in the sand and don't step over that. But setting boundaries and being prepared. Like I say, I talk to people about packing a self care like toolbox. But
mhm,
for you, it's like add some love, support yourself, and
mhm,
absolutely, know what you're willing to do. And then, go in love, because if there's some patterns, then you can say, I I'm not, I just choose not to participate in this. I love you. I love you. But I'm not doing this. Or I don't want to do that. To be gentle and to be loving and just always bring peace. I always tell everyone, peace before you, peace after you. Just set the intention to setting intentions are huge for me and they're really important. Set the intention to move in love.
mhm,
And then I have my own little things, like I would say, if I'm going somewhere, I think it may be stressful. I illuminate the place in light, white light,
mhm.
and I
Okay.
send love before I go.
Mm. So
So,
let love greet you there so you can show up as love.
mhm, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
And then before I walk in the door, if I know it's going to be, I'm like, okay, peace, 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 love.
Oh, beautiful. Now,
Mhm.
another tactic that I've used, and let me know what you think about this,
Yes,
but
yes.
another tactic that I've used is to show up as you are, not as you were. When
Absolutely.
we get involved, for example, in order to keep peace in a family dynamic, if that family dynamic no longer works for you, then because you've evolved,
Hmm.
you've begun to love yourself more. You've got a more mature or multidimensional view of yourself. You have more self-esteem. You have developed more self-love.
Mhm.
Now, when we go back into an old family pattern where you were something else, it's very easy to revert to fit into that family pattern.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things I say is show up as you are, not as you were. And this is a derivation of always you
Absolutely.
are, you are no longer the awkward teen. You are no longer the ugly duckling of the family. You are no longer the pincushion of the family. You are still the beloved of God. And you are still as God created you, holy and pure. And just because there's a square a square box called your old family dynamic, you do not have to be the round peg in a square box. You can be you.
Well, absolutely. But let me tell you, I try to prepare my people and I want them to be armed. What
Okay.
is the saying? Forearmed is forewarned, not in
Yes.
a bad way. But those
Yes.
things all sound so nice because I've had people say,
Mhm.
okay, well, that sounds nice, Coach Woman. What? So when I tell people, hey, show up as you are,
Uh-huh.
be prepared. Be prepared. Like they say, we prepare for war, but we pray for peace.
Uh-huh. Yes.
So, and I'm not saying prepare for the war, but I want them to be prepared because also remember, especially families,
Yes.
they know how to push the buttons and remind you of who you were and you're trying to be somebody better or you're trying to be different.
Uh-huh.
You come home, it's like, oh, what you do? Showing up this, you
Who do
show.
you think you are?
And it's like, no. So I get them prepared. Like, okay, now let's pack this little bag and have an
Let's
arsenal.
pack this lunch.
When
Yes.
they come for you. And you
Mhm.
didn't send for them, but you better be ready. So, and
Mhm.
it's like strengthening yourself and having your fortitude because you can tell people to show up as they are,
Mhm.
but if they don't believe in who they are, then we're gonna have a problem. So,
Yes.
I want you to show up as you are, but remember who you are and always have boundaries.
Yes.
Okay, but also know your worth.
Mm.
Remember. Mhm.
Yes. Exactly. And you said something very interesting there, Coach. You said they know how to push the buttons because they put the buttons there.
They sure did.
They
So
put the buttons there. So
we
they know how to
do.
push those buttons because they invented the buttons.
Exactly. So what I tell my people is let's childproof them. Okay, we're gonna
Oh,
childproof
tell
these
me
buttons.
about that. Yes, yes.
We're gonna try childproof these buttons. And so what I do if I'm working with a person before they go somewhere, I'm like,
Uh-huh.
okay, what are some affirmations to support you? Because affirmations can save your life, you know,
Mm.
just because it helps you to affirm what you believe or know to be true about yourself. So I'm like, okay, so what are some affirmations that can support you out the gate so that when this comes up, you can take a breath here. So because I don't want all my work
Mm.
going around.
Go out the window in 5 minutes.
We got all this work. So come on here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So, believing in who you say you are, like, okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm choosing to be. But it's like, okay, your father does XYZ and your sister
Mhm.
does XYZ. So come on, let's get it prepared. Get
Mhm.
prepared.
When they do that, how are you going to keep your peace impenetrable?
Absolutely.
And somebody, Carlisa had a comment about amicable indifference. And
Hmm.
that was fascinating because we can be indifferent when we are no longer threatened. And we are no longer threatened when we are firm in who we are. So
Hmm.
someone else's projection onto us has no effect on us.
Right, right.
So if I hear you correctly, you're saying fortify and strengthen the truth
Absolutely.
of your true identity so
Absolutely.
that no one else can have an effect on you. And then you can be in amicable.
Absolutely. And stand in that. But if peace is the intention, because sometimes people, your family can get a little aggressive.
Mhm.
And then you take a breath, feel yourself, and then everyone in the room, sometimes all you have to do is breathe. And they're like, oh, wow, she's breathing too. What's she doing? She's taking a breath. And then, you take a breath and say, because I say you can disarm a person with kindness and the truth.
Mm.
So sometimes I might say, okay, now, I love you,
Mhm.
but this is unacceptable. We're not going to do this. I'm not going to do this with you, but I love you.
I love you, but I'm not going to participate in it.
I'm not This is that production. I've grown out of that.
Mm, 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 mm.
So I'm
Because
not.
I find it's so easy to revert.
Mhm.
I remember once I was with a family member, and literally we reverted back 30 years into nah, uh-huh, nah, nah, uh-huh.
Yeah, because
Because
it's
it was
easy.
a comfortable pattern.
It is. It's easy to go back to what you know. The
Yes,
familiarity breeds contempt. Absolutely, it's always there waiting. You know.
yes. So
Mhm.
we have to fortify ourselves. And one
Absolutely.
of the pieces of advice that you have is fortify yourself with affirmations. Uh, do you think it would be effective to see ourselves as ourselves in the situation prior to the situation? Meaning, see ourselves as our highest self in the situation before the
Absolutely.
situation occurs.
Absolutely. And like I tell my people, see the best version of yourself, but not only see that, be that. Be the best version of
Mm, mm.
be the best version and stand in that. Because
Stand.
when you let me say this, and you can verify this to be, I think, when you know that and they come for
Mm,
you, it's like no,
uh-uh.
mm-mm, no, mm-mm, no.
That reminds me of there was this movie from 1973. I think Jodie Foster won the Academy. It was called Taxi Driver.
Mm-hmm.
And there was one scene in it when he was practicing going out and challenging the bad guys. And he says, you talking to me? You
Mm-hmm.
talking to me?
Mm-hmm.
You talking to me? And he was practicing that.
Right. Sometimes you gotta, they say fake it till you make it. And
He
it's
was
not
fortifying himself.
right. And I don't want to say fake it till you make it, but it's like fortifying that because I have the belief that I am.
Mhm.
I am. And it's like, okay, maybe I have 49%. I'm like, okay, come on, we got to push you. Let's get to 51. But
Mm,
just believable. Absolutely. Yeah.
beautiful. And make a plan. Our
Mhm.
doula for grief suggests also making a plan for moving through the day.
Absolutely.
And what just occurred to me is on any journey, you need to make a pit stop. And this not only goes back to self-care, caring for yourself, just like a car, a Daytona 500 car. They all have to have a pit stop for new gas, changing the
Absolutely.
tires and stuff. But even
Absolutely.
during the day with loved ones, make a plan that includes pit stops. Pit stops for you to regather your own energy. Pit stops for
Absolutely.
you to recenter yourself. Pit stops for you to remember who you are. Pit stops for you to be in your own energy, unpolluted
Absolutely.
by the energy of others. Do you think that would be useful?
Absolutely. Because I call those charging stations.
Oh, tell us about them.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do. I call those charging stations, and I think like the doula had said, have a plan because you and I had discussed that earlier. That's number
Yes.
one out the gate is to have a plan, and then if you have to make a change, stop at the charging station to get
Mhm.
reinforcement, please do that.
Mm.
Please do that. The pit
Okay.
stops with the pit crew, but you have your charging station. Absolutely.
Okay.
Hmm.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So that and one of the other things that comes up
Hmm.
is how can we give others permission to be human as families? Because one of the things that I notice happens is that it's very easy to judge others,
Hmm.
and that judgment takes us out of our peace. So, how can we give them permission to be human? And and we talked about this in the pregame show, you have a very unique perspective as a retired EMS and as a retired firefighter, you have seen people in their most human.
Mhm.
And as a minister of God, no matter what you are doing, and everybody here, remember A Course in Miracles, lesson 154, I am among the ministers of God. You
Mhm.
were ministering before you even knew it because you were seeing people at
Mhm.
the most vulnerable. And no matter what you did to apply CPR, or no matter what you did to comfort a gunshot victim, or no matter what you did with somebody whose body was charred with third-degree burns, you were ministering and you saw them at their most human.
I did.
So what can we do to see others at their most human with love, which can diffuse some of these situations that might come
This is something I practice myself. I
up?
think about if it were me, how I would
Mm,
want to treat me.
okay.
You know, I'm like, wow, well, what if that were me? How would I want? Because in being, I was a firefighter, and in being that, you would see people at their worst. And I remember that when I was actually putting the fire out, and later when I saw the people, there were people that I knew,
Mm,
and it was like, oh my God. And so I was in two roles,
mm,
because they were looking to me to talk, and I just think about, before I even consider being rude or what, however, I just think, wow, I live from that place where I'm very human because people are very human. And if that were me, how would I want to be treated? And I treat people that way.
mm,
I think about that. And I think that guides me. And I always suggest that to people, because I ask people all the time, what if that were you?
mm.
What if that were you? How would you want to, you know? So I always would treat people with respect, even if I was fighting a fire or EMS. Once I saw someone, like, the person had been drinking and they were drunk, and another one of my coworkers saw the guy, like, taking his feet, kicking him, saying, "Hey, buddy." And when I walked up, and I'm like, "No, we don't do that." And he told him, "Hey, man, that's not what we do here.
Mm,
You don't put your feet on anybody.
mm.
It could be the worst drunk." I mean, because I ran across so many people. So that's why everyone just became so human to me, because, people are embarrassed sometimes that you see them that way.
Uh-huh.
And I don't hold any judgment for that, because we're all.
Thank you for not judging me. I got to tell you, we've run into each other in some very interesting circumstances, Coach Wilma and I. I was her instructor in Intervisions, but we've also run into each other in some very interesting circumstances. The subtext being, she caught me in some compromising position.
Yeah.
I remember the time when you were waving at me from the truck, and I was in my car driving. You were just waving at me from the truck, and
And
I
look,
also
yelling. I was yelling, "Reverend Jim," and we were doing an emergency response. And I'm like,
Reverend Jim, get your ass out the way. I also remember the time you caught me at the Montgomery Mall sleeping. They were taking my old data from my old phone and transferring it to my new phone at the Montgomery Mall. And I was sitting there waiting, and I fell asleep, drool dribbling down the corner of my cheek. I come to, and who's looking all up in my face but Coach Wilma?
smiling too. Hey, Reverend Jim.
And you treated me with such compassion. And I share that humorous story because I want to tell all of my Coach Wilma practices what she. I'm so glad to have you on. I'm
I'm
so glad and I'm
here.
so thankful for you to share so many of your gifts and views.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. And it's funny because this is a teachable moment. I didn't even remember that till you brought it up. And see, people see us, and they may not even remember. And then you brought it up. I was like, "Oh yeah." And I had totally forgot. And when you said you saw me and I was drunk, I was like, "Reverend Jim, I need to see that, please." That's because you were so good to me. I was just like, hell, I'll probably be sleeping too. Because you gotta wait for the data. You look at your phone to do stuff that we occupy you. So I don't know. It's just so human to me,
It
because
was so beautiful and it was so wonderful to see you, as it always is.
yeah.
We're going to have a couple of other surprises for you on the other side of the break. Uh, And we're going to hear a little bit more about what Coach Wilma is up to on the other side of the break. For now, we're here on the New Thought Media Network. Stay with us.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And we're back here on the New Thought Media Network on the Miracle of Prosperity with my special guest, Coach Wilma Lee. Now, one of our questions was, can I take you to one of my family functions over the holidays, Coach Wilma? And the answer is no. But what you can do is take her turbocharged self-care workbook. So how do we get a hold of that, Coach Wilma?
I have a link in the, I think we put a link, there's a link up, and it will take you to, absolutely, it will take you to Linktree. So what I have, Linktree, I have a website, but I have a Linktree because that has several different things on it. I have a self-care, like a checklist, a winter checklist, and it's free. I also have the 5-day, I do a 5-day self-care challenge that's free. The workbook is super affordable, it's $8. And also, as a gift to everyone from Reverend Jim, it comes with 30-minute every time. If you buy the workbook, you get 1 hour free with me. It's the
I get a free hour with you? Hey! You didn't know that.
Oh no! Now that's only for the people that have your show. You will get 1
What
hour.
about me? I bought your workbook, girlfriend.
But if you buy it today, you you can get a free hour with me. Come on, because you helped make all this magic happen for me. So you get a free hour. You
Okay.
can.
All
So
right.
you get the free hour, and we come up with 3 action steps that you can take. So it's like you get a free coaching session. So the link tree is how you can access everything. You can follow me on TikTok because I have the TikTok series I'm running, which started from 21 Days of Yes, and now it's Living Yes. So everything is on the link tree.
Beautiful. Thank you. And so, what are you working on these days, Coach Wilma?
I am working on. I have another book I'm writing that's based on Yes, Live Yes, because I did the 21 Days of Yes series on TikTok, which was very well received. So what I started doing, I'm on TikTok Monday through Saturday doing Living Yes. And it's kind of like a how-to, and just the videos are a minute, sometimes 2 at best. So I'm doing that and working on my book, The Living Yes. So those are a couple of the things, but Reverend Jim, what are you up to? Because you are always up to something good. So what you cooking?
I got a whole lot cooking, baby. I got a whole stew. The first thing I'm working on is actually my new book. My new book is Prosperity from A to Z. And it's, in a sense, a supplement to my big book, The Soul of Prosperity. It's a mini ebook that's 40 pages long. And it's Prosperity from A to Z because each page is a prosperity principle or a practice. For example, A is for abundance. And what that A does is it is a way for us to have several powerful, easy tips for how to shift our mind into an abundance consciousness, where by default we go into lack. So I have some exercises, and each one is 1 page. So A is for abundance, and Z is for something else. And everywhere in between, there are tips, principles. They're simple, they're bite-sized, it's only 40 pages. And guess what? It's released on December 15th. And between December 15th and the end of the year, it's only 99 cents. So on Amazon. Yes.
So that's kind of helping them get their minds right for 2023.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And speaking of that, I got another thing coming, and you all on this show tonight are the first to hear about another thing I've got going on to help people get prepared for 2023. The other thing I've got going on to get people prepared for 2023 is my second ebook, which will be out. I don't have a release date for it, but the tentative release date is December 27th. And the release date for this book, this mini ebook, which is another 40 to 50 page ebook, an easy read, is called Bringing Your Vision Board to Life.
Oh, I like it.
Yes, it's all kinds of tips and tools for how to just expand the energy of your vision board, how to open to the energy of your vision board, how to merge with it, and how to integrate it into the rest of your spiritual practices so that you can optimize the effectiveness of your vision board. It also gives some tips on how to arrange your vision board. It talks about the spiritual principles behind the vision board and how to make sure your vision board will manifest.
Now that's
juicy. It's very juicy. You all are the first to hear about this one. It'll be released on December 27th. And between now and the end of the year, it too will be 99 cents. It's available on Amazon.com as well.
Wow. So you're going to remind us, like, how you're going to put that on social media, remind us, like, how
will Reverend Jim remind you of something he's selling? Is the sky blue? I will remind you. Awesome. And I also want to remind everybody that you can look at my webpage, www.revjimwebb.com, for my January classes. My January classes are number 1 on Monday nights, your personal prescription for prosperity, where Spirit gives you your own individual prescription for how you can optimize your prosperity. And then on Thursday nights, I'm going to do an 8-week class on bringing your vision board to life, where we do all the exercises in the ebook and we really put them into practice. So that's what I've got going on. And you can check out my website for everything. And if you want to get in my classes, I would recommend it soon because I'm 65% sold out. And they start a month from now, but they're already 65% sold out.
Wow.
So that's what's going on. So I thank you, Coach Wilma Lee, and I thank all of our guests tonight for being a part of the Miracle of Prosperity here on the New Thought Media Network. Goodbye.
Thank you.